All right, looking at Classical East, Part 4, Confucianism and Daoism, or Taoism. So, Mandate of Heaven, which we mentioned in the other part. So, the Mandate of Heaven is the ancient Chinese concept which originated during the Zhou dynasty, and the mandate determines whether an emperor of China is good enough to rule. If he does not fulfill his obligations as emperor, then he loses the mandate and thus the right to be emperor. So the dynastic cycle, what you have is you have a new dynasty, which you've already talked about 3 of them so far, comes to power. The emperor reforms the government, makes it more efficient, so everything's going great. The lives of common people are improved, taxes are reduced, farming is encouraged, so people have more money and more food. Problems begin. What they end up doing is the emperor goes out and he gets into wars, invasions, etc. So here's where the problems start. So taxes increase, you got to pay the army. Men are forced to work in the army, so they have to leave the fields. So there's less food, less money. Government increases spending because the more money that the government brings in, the more money that the government's going to spend, and the more money that you have around and leads to corruption, government corruption. So heaven comes in, heaven brings about droughts, floods, famines, which we talked about. So the poor lose respect for the government. They join with the rebels and attack warlords. Rebel bands find strong leaders who unite them. Those leaders end up getting an army together. They attack the emperor, and that's going to be it. So the emperor is defeated, and then you start a new dynasty, and then we start all over again. So that's the dynastic cycle. So Confucianism, Confucian is named after its founder, Confucius, and he established a philosophy based on the belief on what he believed was the basic order of the universe. Remember, he was born during this time of great turmoil at the end of the Zhou dynasty. He stressed the following traditional ways, which had worked well in the past to achieve peace and harmony. Confucius taught that each person should live up to his or her name and fulfill their social obligations. So your role in life, you need to fulfill that social obligation. Confucius placed great importance on traditional values, so the old way of doing things, such as obedience and order. He also stressed the importance of family, and where children should show devotion, known as filial piety. In other words, what you're doing is you're showing your respect for your elders and for your parents. So for Confucius, the family served as a model for society, emphasizing duties, good deeds, and then a civilized way of life. So what he believed is there was a natural order. So there's a natural order to the universe, and humans had a relationship. Each person has a role in society, which reflects his or her position in the universe. So the role of each person's social role brings a number of obligations. If everyone fulfills this role by meeting their obligations, people in society will live in harmony. So if everyone does their job, the society is going to be harmonious and peaceful. So relationships, in each relationships, there is going to be a superior and an inferior. The superior must show love and responsibility to the inferior, while the inferior must show loyalty and obedience. So mandate of heaven, if the ruler benefits his people and provides them with food protection, then the people will obey the ruler, which will continue to follow the mandate of heaven, which goes with the relationships. So just think of it this way. Say you're the older brother, your younger sister is going to be your inferior in their situation. So you have to show respect for your, love and responsibility for your younger sister, and she in return will have respect for you and obey you maybe. And then Taoism, or pronounced sometimes Taoism. So Taoism or Taoism is a Chinese philosophy based on the teachings of Lao Tzu. Taoists believe that nature has a way, so in which it moves, and that people should accept that way of nature rather than try to resist it. So Taoists have the deepest respect for nature and harmony and accept things rather than try and change them. Okay, so the way the universe works, that's perfect, so don't try and change it. So if you fight against nature, Taoists believe your actions may even result in the opposite of what you intended. So say you build a dam to control floods, sometimes dams actually cause bigger floods. So people can achieve enlightenment only by non-striving. It's kind of a strange way. It's not being lazy. That's just, in other words, not going out and trying to change nature. So enjoy it, but don't go out and try and change it. And by using contemplation to abandon their earthly concerns. So meditation, pretty much. And this is the symbol for Taoism. And this is where we get the yin and the yang. And really what you have in yin and yang is just the opposites of each other. So, the opposite of soft is hard. So things like that. So Taoism, they want you to be like water, flow smoothly around obstacles rather than bumping up against them. So a rock that's going downstream is going to go around the rock. It's not going to try and run over the top of it. So adapt yourself to the shape of the channel that you, and that way you won't get stuck. And the natural rather than the human-made world is offered as a model. So do what nature does. So facts, Taoism based on the teachings of Laozi. That's another way to pronounce it. So Tao is about the natural order of things, and Taoism is all about working with nature and nature's forces and not fighting against them. So some of the things that are similar between a Taoist and a Confucianism, both are pacifists. So in other words, both of them don't believe in violence. Both of them encourage moral behavior. So this is right and this is wrong. And both of them believe in charity. What's opposite is Confucius is centered around the teachings of man. Taoism is centered around the concept of equality of man and nature. So this one is man-based. This one is man and nature-based. So respect for wealth and age. And in Taoism, you honor a simple life in harmony with nature. So in Confucianism, they believe that you can change the world to fit what you need. And then in Taoism, you need to follow your inner behavior and not the world. So don't try and change nature again. And this one we went over. So your major Eastern religions, Hinduism, where does it begin? India, Nepal, main beliefs. That's going to be reincarnation. They believe in karma. They believe in many gods. Buddhism, where it began, was in Nepal, which is part of India at that time also. And the main beliefs are the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. Confucianism starts in China. Main beliefs is that there's an order to the universe. If you stay within your role, stay within your order, then there will be peace in the universe. So the end of the empires, Rome and the dynasties. How do you compare the two? So scholars have compared the collapse of the Han Dynasty to the collapse of Rome. Both spread over very large areas, and the larger your empire gets, the harder it is to govern because of the transportation and communication problems. So both saw areas in their empire fall into the hands of generals in Rome, and then local warlords in the dynasties. So this weakened the actual central government, the capital government. So early emperors were talented, which this is pretty much true in every empire. Your early rulers are talented rulers, and later on, your emperors are not as qualified. They become spoiled. What happens? So in each empire, later rulers were sometimes overthrown by their own generals or palace guards. So the spread of corruption, creating instability in both of them. People became dissatisfied with the government and with the unequal distribution of wealth. So you had a very few people that had all the money. Everybody else was extremely poor in both groups. So vast differences existed between the richest and the poorest social classes, leading to frequent peasant uprisings. And then the last one, discontent with high taxes to support the army. Both of them had huge armies, but you had to collect a lot of money from the people to fund these armies. So finally, both empires faced a constant threat from the outside. You had the Mongols and the Huns from outside of China, and then you had the barbarians from outside of Rome. So the important ideas, summary. The Aryans or the Aryans introduced Hinduism and the caste system into India, and this created a hereditary social class. So in other words, you were born into your class and you couldn't go up or down, except for after you pass away in reincarnation. So although Buddhism began in India, it quickly spread through the south, through central south, east, and then East Asia. Asoka was a Mauryan ruler who was converted to Buddhism. The Gupta Empire marked the golden age of Hindu Empire. Saw the growth of learning, arts, literature, science, and mathematics. China was ruled by a series of dynasties, which are ruling families. Confucianism became China's dominant belief system. Based on the teachings of Confucius, it expressed kindness and the following of traditional ways to achieve peace and harmony. And the Qin Emperor Shi Huangdi united distant parts of China. He connected a lot of the Great Wall of China to protect them from foreign invaders. And then the fall of the Han Dynasty is compared to the fall of the Roman Empire.